All right, how we doing? Welcome back. It is episode 3 of my interview series here on the show. And today, something that hits a little close to home, a hometown hero, I could call him, someone that I've watched growing up for years here, up in Canada playing for the Bombers, experience in the NFL as well, someone that I've wanted on the show for a few months now, and we finally got to work things out. I'm so happy to see him here. With that all being said, it's my pleasure to welcome on CFL NFL quarterback, Mr. Chris Streveler. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I know it's late at night right now. We're filming. I know you're slammed with stuff. You're training, you're coaching, you're running a dating app. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for spending some time with me. How are things?
absolutely, man. I appreciate the intro. You make me feel old when you say you watched me growing up. That makes me feel old. But I'm glad we could make this work, man. I know we've been going back and forth, and I'm glad to be here.
No doubt. You don't play like you're old. That's all I'll say. The play style, the heavy hitting, I'm loving it. I know, the injuries, they might be bogging down on you, but you're still playing like a dog out there, which I love. Now, you spend time in the CFL, the NFL, obviously. I know you're doing media stuff as well. I saw you throughout the season posting on that. I always like to start with a few current events. Right now, obviously, we're hit with a complete free agency blitz in the NFL, and you have a ton of teammates right now, I'm sure, who are moving all around the place, notably Kyler Murray, a guy that you probably worked with a ton
Yeah.
in Arizona, who's looking for a new home. Was there anybody or any moves that have kind of stuck out to you? Was there somebody that you really just liked the landing spot over these last few days of free agency?
Yeah, I mean, well, the Kyler thing's pretty interesting. You talk about the value you're going to get from somebody for a low, low price because the Cardinals are still kind of footing the bill on that. So it sounds like he's probably going to go to Minnesota, which would be a great fit. And everything Kevin O'Connell's done to help quarterbacks kind of reestablish himself and revamp and help build the mindset. So I'd be excited about that move for him. I also think the Malik Willis move down to Miami is kind of a steal. I mean, for what he potentially could be and how dynamic that offense could be with somebody who can run the football at quarterback too. So that's exciting. It's been, I mean, then the Max Crosby trade just blew up today, which
Crazy.
was crazy. And I was actually just telling my father-in-law about this, just a little story about my time in the NFL. I signed with the Ravens, and dude, their doctors were like super thorough in the physical. Like, I hurt my ankle in the playoffs in 2019 with Winnipeg. That was pretty well documented. I had broke my ankle. Dude, they almost failed me on my physical with the Ravens because my ankle had some previous damage. So when I saw that Max Crosby got failed on his physical, it kind of just brought back those memories of like, damn, those doctors were really strict. So crazy day of free agency and all the things going on.
No kidding. And I was kind of shocked. Like, obviously, this doesn't happen often. When a trade happens during the tampering period, it usually goes through. But I was just shocked that the failure of the medical leads to the conclusion of the trade. Like, I thought maybe it'd still go through, but obviously, with your experience as well, they take it pretty seriously. And it's obviously been a pretty significant injury holding him out from last year. But I can definitely tell you're a quarterbacks guy with the Malik Willis, the Kyler stuff. I'm pumped to talk about all that. You obviously have both the CFL, the NFL experience, and for people who don't know, the games are similar, but they're a little bit different. And you've played in both leagues, and both, I would say, requires its each own skill set, especially from a quarterback's perspective. What game and what league do you think benefited your play style the most? Because when you're considering a wider field, for example, to throw a 20-yard out route, that's a whole lot harder when you got like 30 more yards to throw in the CFL. Right down to the shape of the ball, it's completely different. You got an added man, another weapon to account for. What game, what league do you think played to your strengths, and what was the transition like between both leagues hopping back and forth as a quarterback?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think the way that I always describe the two leagues to people is the CFL is much more of a spacing based league, and the NFL is much more of a timing based league. The windows are smaller; it's a tighter field in the NFL, so the urgency and the timing that you need to have is critical. Whereas in the CFL, it's a little bit bigger field. There's bigger windows. You're able to kind of see guys open and throw them into these pockets on the field at times. Obviously, coverage dependent, right? Like man coverage can be a little bit different, but that's kind of how I describe things to guys. In terms of skill set, yeah, it's hard to say. Obviously, the obvious choice is well, bigger field in the CFL, you can run a quarterback. That aids itself. So I mean, there's probably something there, but also I grew up playing the American game, so when I transitioned back down to the NFL, it was easier for me to identify defenses down there than it was when I came up to the CFL. And so they are different games, and there is different strategies and game planning, and all these different things. So I appreciate them both for what they are, but there are differences in the way that the style of the game is played for sure.
100%. And you played on a few successful teams, both in the CFL with the Bombers and in the NFL with your time in Arizona, making the playoffs in one of those years in 2021. You also played with the Jets for a few years, hopped around a few practice squads. Like I said, you played that 2021 year under Cliff Kingsbury with the Cardinals, made the playoffs, won a Grey Cup with the Bombers. At that level, at the pro level, CFL, NFL, everyone's a superstar, right? Everyone's a great athlete. Everyone's a freak. They're there for a reason, right? But experiencing some winning teams and obviously some losing teams where maybe you underperformed expectations, what makes a team great at the NFL level? And how do you separate, but more importantly, how do you sustain success? Something I've realized over this free agency window so far, even these last few days, is how many players these Super Bowl winning teams actually lose. The Seahawks have lost a crap ton of guys. Same with the Eagles. They get paid, and that's just the Super Bowl premium.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that makes you appreciate teams and dynasties like the Patriots and the Chiefs a whole lot more than maybe you did prior.
Right. Well, it always starts at the most important position at quarterback, right? I mean, you mentioned the Patriots, you mentioned the Chiefs. Any team that has sustained success, it starts and ends with the quarterback. Now, that being said, I do think there's definitely a case to be made for the culture that is on a team and the type of people that you bring into a building and how they fit into your system and your particular culture. And that's something that I've always drawn on for my time in the CFL with Winnipeg is you want to talk about a team that has a very strong culture. That's about as strong as it gets, man. I mean, everyone knows about FIFO. Everyone kind of knows about what we're about. And guys genuinely care about each other. They genuinely love each other. And we make it a point to spend time with each other outside of work. And to me, when your culture is built in that way where, hey, we're going to encourage guys to spend time together outside the facility, but when we come in, we're going to work, we're going to grind, we're going to battle together. I think that's when you're able to have sustained success from a cultural standpoint. And then if you combine that with having a great quarterback, you look at a Zach Collaros in the CFL, like it's not a surprise that he's been to 5, out of 6. So I think those are kind of two things that go hand in hand. And to me, it starts from the top down, man. What's your ownership doing? What's your head coach doing? Like those guys set the tone, and then it goes quarterback, and then your veteran leaders. And we had a lot of strong leadership at all those positions when I was with Winnipeg, and it ended up leading to success.
Well, exactly. It starts at the top, just like you said. If you got a good foundation of workers up front and managing the organization right down to the team, it sets that tone. And I've definitely seen that through a few teams that you've participated with, which is super cool. Now, spending some time in the NFL, I'm curious, who was the best player you played with over your time in the NFL? Was there somebody that stuck out to you? Maybe you lean quarterback or maybe a receiver, maybe someone on the other side of the ball. I don't know. But was there a moment where you were like, yeah, this guy's different. This is somebody that I've played with that is an elite, Hall of Fame talent potentially.
Yeah, I mean, obviously quarterback jumps to mind, right? Being in the room with Aaron Rodgers is a pretty special experience. That guy, his knowledge and what he could still do with the football at the age of 40 when I was with him is pretty insane. I always loved watching Lamar Jackson play. He's to this day one of my favorite players. I don't think there's ever been somebody that dynamic at the quarterback position. So I love watching him play. And then a guy on the other side of the ball that I always appreciated playing against was Chandler Jones. I mean, people kind of forget about him and the way that his career kind of tailed off. But man, when he was rolling, he was one of the best in the league, and he was just a physical specimen. And being on the practice squad and the scout team, getting to go against him was always a fun challenge because the way that he would rush and on bootlegs, I'd always try to outrun him and get the edge. And just a great teammate too. So I mean, there's been so many guys I've gotten to play with and play against, and we could go on and on about that forever for sure.
For sure, and you got that NFL QB experience, and I'll even make fun of myself a little, Chris. I come on the air, and a lot of people, myself included, we talk a little bit of shit. I like to rank QBs. I like to act like I know what I'm talking about. But at the end of the day, I feel like we really don't. And there's parts of the game that you miss, especially from a quarterback aspect. And from your perspective, somebody that's lived it and been there and understands what it actually takes, how should we evaluate quarterbacks and how much does context actually matter? Because everyone in the media all the time, you win a Super Bowl, you're crowned champion, right? You automatically rise the ranks, or you're in a trash situation, you're looked at as lesser maybe. But then you see guys walk from poor teams to rich teams, and they're balling out like a Sam Darnold or a Daniel Jones or a Baker Mayfield. How do you think, and how do you go about your process of evaluating quarterbacks at the pro level?
Yeah, man, another great question, man. But I think one of the things that really gets overlooked is the aspect of coaching, especially in the NFL. I think the culture and the coaching that you're around is extremely important, especially with young guys. I mean, you look at some of these guys who have been in, like you said, poor organizations and have gone and totally revitalized their career because they're around good coaches, they're around a positive culture. I mean, it's not a coincidence. So I think you have to kind of take that into account when you're evaluating quarterbacks. But it is difficult because you see guys go out there and make some great throws, but they're losing games, and the leash for quarterbacks now is so short, man. I mean, we're already talking about the Vikings moving on from JJ McCarthy, and this guy started like 9 games. Like, it's crazy. So, the leash is shortened, so it's almost hard to give guys that grace period. I mean, you go back and you look at Peyton Manning, dude threw a bunch of interceptions his first year and really struggled. And, there's guys like that who have, back in the day when they were given 3-4 years as a first rounder to develop, they took 3 to 4 years to develop. But it's just not like that because there's so much pressure on coaches and ownerships and GMs to win right now. And there is so much talent around the league. So, and the other thing with that is depth is important as well. So you got to kind of have a number two guy that can play, or at least a veteran guy to kind of press. So, it's a loaded question, but for me, I always lean more to the fact of like, okay, let's like give these rookie young guys a chance, like give them a real chance to get around some talent and see. And like, I just keep thinking about a guy like Cam Ward who like, didn't win a ton of games last year, but every once in a while you'd see him make a crazy throw and it's like, man, he could do it. But we'll see what happens with Salah coming in and how that culture looks. And they've made some good moves in free agency, I think. So, like, I think that's kind of like a perfect example of like, if he doesn't go crazy this year and they don't make the playoffs, are they already going to be kind of like scratching to move on, or like, things like that where there's obviously talent, but there's other aspects at play. So I know I'm kind of just rambling on, but I do think that the coaching aspect of things really gets overlooked. But you look at guys that go to Shanahan, they go to Kevin O'Connell, like we mentioned before, they go to McVay, and they're able to kind of reestablish themselves and get around solid coaching, change their mindset, change the way they see the game, and they end up having success there or elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think a huge part of it, and you mentioned it, Chris, is that coaches also have that pressure and their time clock is ticking too, right? Like if they don't make a call on who to play at quarterback and they don't have success, they're booted out the front door. So they're also making these knee-jerk reactions of like, you suck right now. We can't play you. I need to keep my job. I need to keep my home here wherever I'm at. So, unfortunately, I feel like that's led to a lot of the collapse of the young quarterback market in the league. And if you're not immediately succeeding, like you said, with a guy like Cam Ward, you're kind of looked at as like a bum for a lot of people, which is crazy to say because coming out of college, they just have so much talent. So
Yeah.
I hope, and I feel like we're kind of transitioning back into the quarterback development stage, especially after seeing these younger quarterbacks revive their careers at still a young age. Like Darnold playing at like 28, 29, he's still got a good like 6 to 7 years left to go of really high quality football, I would assume. So,
Maybe
there's
more than that, bro. You could probably get 10 out of him. I mean, look at Mac
exactly,
Jones. Mac Jones went to
exactly.
San Francisco and like, oh yeah, it's crazy.
Exactly. And these guys, all first round picks. Mac Jones was a guy that took the Patriots to the playoffs in his first year, and he's a backup in the league. I mean, I think that's also just a testament to how much talent and how much depth there is in the league at points. And
Mhm.
also, like, the coaching aspect. Like, I know you've mentioned it multiple times, and I feel like it's something overlooked by the media. Like, myself, I feel like we miss an aspect of the game that you can only really get from the locker room and when you're actually in it with the team. Like, do you think and do you see that missed, idea of the league or a misconception maybe of what's actually going on that you can really only get it when you're living it, actually going through the days, the hard days with the team?
Mhm. Yeah, I think you kind of have to have a general understanding of what the day to day looks like because a lot of times you're pointing the finger at the head coach, but in some of these situations, like the head coach isn't even involved with the offense at all. So like that's just the guy that takes credibility for wins and losses is the head coach and the quarterback, no matter what. But like some of these teams, it's the defensive head coach, so 90% of the time it's the offensive coordinator or the quarterback coach that's in there coaching those guys. So yeah, I just think to fully understand the picture of where the development is coming from, you got to understand what the day-to-day process looks like. You got to understand who's kind of coaching those guys and what that process looks like on a week-to-week basis, what the preparation looks like in terms of making a game plan.
And you gotta peel back the layers. Like, the game is truly like chess, right? And there are so many moving pieces that I feel like you just can't make a judgment based off a game or based off a report that you hear. And you mentioned good coaching. It's been a theme throughout the episode here. You spent a really great portion of your career up here in Winnipeg with the Bombers, where you've raved about their culture and the coaching staff. We love your intensity and your play style. You kind of remind me of like a Taysom Hill if I was going to give you like an NFL comp for anybody that doesn't watch CFL football. What can you say about your experience here in Winnipeg? And how does the environment maybe compare to NFL environments that you've played in or other Canadian cities? I've heard a lot of people that I've talked to from the team say it's kind of like a college atmosphere. Do you kind of get that vibe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could talk all day about my experience in Winnipeg. I got nothing but great things to say. In terms of the game day atmosphere, man, it's the best in the CFL. People want to talk about Labor Day in Regina, and I've been there 4 times. Like, it ain't the same. It ain't the same as what we got going on a regular basis in Winnipeg. So, the way the fans show up and support, even when things aren't going good, it's amazing. It's an amazing place to play. And I mean, you just can't think of a better city in the CFL to play in. And then, in terms of the guys and the culture and the locker room and just what this league is based on, man, it's based on good people. And that was one of the things I always told guys about the difference in the CFL and the NFL is in the CFL, man, like nobody's making enough money to be an asshole. If you're causing an issue in the locker room or you're not a good team guy, like you're simply just not going to stick around the league. There's nobody making, $50 million a year, $30 million a year where it's like, all right, well, we kind of paid this guy. We got to keep him around. It's just not like that. So you fit into a team culture and the value that you bring to a locker room from a personality perspective is very important. And it's such a tight knit league, man. If you get a bad reputation in this league in terms of who you are as a
Right.
guy, that's going to travel very fast. And but on the other side of things, if you're a good guy and a good teammate and you work hard and do things right, that also travels fast too. So I've kind of seen it on both sides with guys, and I got nothing but great things to say about the CFL, the opportunities it's given me, the people it's introduced me to, both as teammates and fans. I mean, I'll have lifelong friends and people that I stay in touch with in Winnipeg for the rest of my life, and so that's just a very special place that's near and dear to my heart. And no matter what the future looks like for me, whether that's playing or not, I'll be back up for some games in the future. That's for sure.
I love to hear it, man. And I want to build off that final point, Chris, something I always ask my guests at the end of every episode. What has football done for you? I know it's kind of a broad question and you can take it in so many different directions, but what has it done for your life and maybe how has it changed your perspective on life and what you do in your everyday business?
Yeah, man. I mean, I can't even begin to explain what the game of football has done for me, man. I mean, I could take you back to my college career. I started at the University of Minnesota and, was there for 3 years. Couldn't really get on the field. Was kind of playing special teams. Was playing like fullback. Was playing receiver. Like, dude, I was just trying to get on the field. And it got to the point after my 3rd year where I'm like, all right, well, like obviously I'm not going to play. What do I do? Should I transfer or should I kind of just stay here and like play special teams and just like try to find my way on the field and kind of be done with it? And man, dude, I look back on that decision that I made in 2015 to transfer and go to South Dakota, and like, dude, it like gives me goosebumps thinking about the opportunities I would have missed out on, and the people that I would have missed out on, and all the amazing things I would have gotten to do had I just given up on that. And to think about going to South Dakota and being National Player of the Year, and then coming to the CFL and having the experience I did up there, winning a championship, coming down to the league, getting my pension, getting to play on 4 teams, going back up to the CFL where it all started, and getting to further my connection with that city and build more relationships with teammates. Like, and even the adversities I go through, man, I look back on those as things that like have just built such a strong character and such a mindset with me that like I just know that no matter what hard things are going to come my way, I know I can overcome them because I've been through a lot of hard things. So, man, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what football's done for me. It's changed my life. It's given me opportunities that I would have never, ever imagined for myself. And I look back when I was a kid, if I would have told, myself when I was a fifth grader that I would have gotten to do the things I would have gotten to do in this game, man, I would have taken that 10 times out of 10. And so I'm just so thankful for this game and what it's given me and the opportunities and the people. Man, I could go on for hours about how thankful I am for this game, and it's gotten to introduce me to people like yourself, where we get to do a really cool podcast, and just so many awesome opportunities, man.
No doubt. Best message I've heard all day, Chris. I really appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, dude. I'm glad we made this work.